Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Quarters temporary studio. Welcome to the show. My goodness, is this card gross? Here we go. And I'm not just talking about, well, the grossly amazing art. I'm talking about what this card does. Ovika, and my apologies if I mispronounce anything. Remember, blame Eddie in the comments below if I make any mistakes. Enigma Goliath, a 6/6 Phyrexia Nightmare with flying. And because it also needed some more text on it, Ward 3, pay 3 life. Wizards, you just seem to slap Ward on to some pretty interesting things. That costs 5 blue and a red. Here we go. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create X/1/1 red Phyrexian Goblin creature tokens. Rex is the mana value of that spell. They gain haste until end of turn. I don't know. Did you see something on there? You know, like, they get sacrificed at the end of the turn or exiled. No? Okay. Yeah, so we just have, and yes, I will say, obviously, this commander does have a high converted mana cost at 7 mana, but my goodness, does this pack a punch. It is a heavy hitter itself. You know, 6/6 flyer is nothing to, not be afraid of, or not be afraid of. I don't know. Anyways, Ward 3, pay 3 life, so an opponent really has to commit to try to take this out. Yeah, and, just how bad are they going to feel when they, try to take it out with something, pay an extra 3 mana, pay 3 life, and then you're like, counterspell. Oh, I also get 2 goblins. Yeah, and the potential to make a massive army incredibly quickly, and one that can attack right away. Yeah, this commander can be incredibly deadly right up the gate. So yeah, just get a bunch of mana rocks in there apparently, ramp a ton, and then hey, when you cast your mana rocks, you make an army from that. So this commander, again, pretty low on creatures in the deck built around it most likely, because again, you're really going to want to make the most out of it when it's in play and make the most out of that trigger to make an absurd amount of goblins. Again, hasty goblins. Yeah, this commander is somewhat reminiscent of a previous one that I'm going to bring up here in a bit. But yeah, this thing, I think a lot of players out there are going to be quite excited about it. It's definitely a commander that can be quite gross, once you get things going. So yeah, on this episode, I'm going to talk about some cards that work really well with it. Some cards that are my budget buys, cards that are less than $1, so even within my budget restrictions, and cards that are pricier picks, cards that are outside of that. So make sure you check out the link in the description below for the list of those cards, if you're interested in it. And let's jump into it. So, obviously, this is somewhat reminiscent of like a Talryn Sky Summoner, but in a different way. Talryn is a 2/2 that says, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. Now, obviously, you're making different things. You're making Phyrexian Goblins that are 1/1s, and they are hasty. But Talryn is actually only benefiting you on, first up, instants and sorceries, whereas this brand new commander is benefiting you on any non-creature spell. So, of course, that includes planeswalkers, artifacts, enchantments, and battle, or whatever that is, all in the new Atraxa card. Maybe we'll see what that is in this set. Who knows? Regardless, yeah, Talryn is more specific on what it is benefiting you from. And also, you're only making 1 2/2 blue Drake. No matter how big that spell is that you're casting, you're making a singular 2/2 Drake. Versus this brand new commander, hey, I'm just going to cast an 8 mana spell. There's 8 goblins. 8 power versus 2 for the exact same cast. Also, Shark Typhoon is another card this is somewhat reminiscent of. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an XX blue shark creature token with flying, breaks that spell's converted mana cost. Now, this one, it does take into account mana cost, but it only gives you a single creature. Now, that creature can be massive, sure, but if you had to say, hey, would you rather have 1/8/8, and I'm not sure why I'm using 8 as an example, but I am. Anyways, would you rather have 1/8/8 or 8/1/1s? The vast majority of Magic players out there, and the right choice in a lot of circumstances, is 8/1/1s. Going wide can definitely be more beneficial. And also, yeah, I mean, if you've got some ways to maybe pump your army, we'll talk about some ways here in a bit, you can be incredibly deadly incredibly quickly. Speaking of deadly and quick, the Locust God. Yeah, this is definitely a commander that is reminiscent of the Locust God. Whenever you draw a card, you get a 1/1 blue and red insect creature token with flying. in haste. And so, yeah, I mean, this one goes about in a different way. Obviously, you know, this one is benefiting you from card draw. Say this one benefits from like wheel effects and the number of cards that you are drawing, versus our new commanders like, hey, cast some big non-creature spells. They are somewhat similar in that they give you hasty creature tokens. And yeah, if you're playing against a Locust God deck, it can go quite quickly. And even though, again, it is a high converted mana cost commander, like our brand new one, yeah, it can be quite deadly. So I definitely see a lot of gross potential for Ovika. Moving on. So, yeah, there are plenty of great non-creature spells that you're going to want to consider for this commander, especially in our budget buys. I mean, let's talk about cards like Jace's Sanctum, Arcane Melee, and Sunburn's Invocation, to name a few. Yeah, these are some great enchantments, which again, when you cast them, you're going to be getting, what, 4, 5, and 6 hasty goblins each, essentially? So, yeah, pretty ridiculous. Jace's Sanctum says, instant sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, scry 1. Now, obviously, this is only benefiting some of your spells. Now, I will say probably the vast majority of spells in your deck, okay, maybe not vast majority, but good portion, maybe I should say, because, yeah, Mana Rocks are a thing too, are probably going to be instants and sorceries, and having cost reduction on them can be incredible. It can help you have some more explosive turns, make more goblins. I mean, basically, you're kind of in a way getting an extra goblin for free. I mean, I guess I should say, like, let's say you're going to cast a 4 mana spell, but you only have 3 mana, but you have a cost reducer, and then you're like, oh, cool, awesome, yeah, I can cast now because this is cost reduction. You know what I mean. Cost reduction is a very powerful thing, can save you a ton of mana throughout the game, and also on top of that, some great card selection with Jace's Sanctum as well. Arcane Melee. This one is a very interesting card. Instant sorcery spells cost 2 to cast. It doesn't say you cast, so this helps everyone out. But again, if you're building your deck around casting a bunch of big things, this can really help you out the most. Sunbird's Invocation, speaking of casting big things, whenever you cast a spell from your hand, reveal the top X cards of your library, X of that spell's mana value. You may cast a spell with mana value X less from the revealed cards this way without paying its mana cost for the rest of the bottom of your library in random order. Basically, hey, cast something big, get something else big off the top for free. Now, keep in mind on our commander, it does not specify that the non-creature spell has to be cast from our hand. So again, casting a spell for free off the top of our library, completely fine. Maybe flashing back a card, completely fine as well. It's going to count anything and everything. As long as it's a non-creature spell, we're going to be making an absurd amount of goblins with something like this. And again, because our commander does not care about where we cast our non-creature spells from, how about Spell Twine? Spell Twine says, exile target instant sorcery card from your graveyard and target instant sorcery card from an opponent's graveyard, copy those cards, cast the copies if able at paying the mana cost, exile Spell Twine. Basically, hey, you get this, which is a 6 mana spell, so that's 6 goblins, plus a spell out of your graveyard, instant sorcery. You can recast that for free. Yeah, also triggering your commander. Let's say that one again also has 6 mana. Why not? Okay, so that's 12 goblins, plus an opponent's instant sorcery. Let's just say 3 mana. Okay, so that's what, 15 goblins for the price of a 6 mana spell, which might have been, cost reduced, by things with, Jace's Sanctum or Arcane Melee. Yeah, this commander has a ton of potential to go off really quickly. Rousing Refrain can definitely help out with that as well. It's a sorcery for 3 red, but you don't have to pay that. You can actually suspend 3 this for 1 in red. Add red for each card in target opponent's hand. That's nice. Gives us a lot of mana potentially for a lot of other spells. Until that turn, you don't lose this mana step in phase end. Exile with 3 time counters on it. So this just keeps exiling and recasting, exiling and recasting. Basically, hey, every 3 turns, do you want some extra mana and 5 free goblins? Yeah, sign me up for that. Speaking of signing me up for something, Epic Experiment. Exile the top X cards of your library, may cast an instant sorcery spell with mana value X or less from among them without paying their mana cost. I misspoke right there, sorry. Spells. You may cast instant sorcery spells. Every spell that costs less than that X, equal to or less than X, you can cast for free all those lovely instant sorceries. So again, yeah, you might want to lean pretty heavily into those. And yeah, you get to actually just cast all those for free. So you can have an absurd amount of value, an explosive turn. And yeah, if you're, again, putting, 10 mana into that X, which is very doable, again, with a deck that wants to ramp a ton, and a deck that might have a bunch of ritual effects as well, and a deck that has cost reduction, you get a ton of value out of this. You get an absurd amount of spells off the top of your library you're casting for free, even more goblins that are hasty. Your opponents are going to get taken out quite easily. And speaking of easy and cost reduction, how about Explosive Singularity? As this will cost to cast a spell, you can tap any number of untapped creatures you control and basically reduce the cost of this spell by 1 for each of those creatures. It's going to deal 10 damage to any target, so that's nice. Maybe just, ping a player in the face, which is probably going to get overrun by goblins very shortly as well, because, yeah, you can just utilize all those goblins that you're making to basically help you cast a spell for just 2 mana. But you're still getting, obviously, that 10 mana value trigger to get 10 goblins, so yeah, good luck to your opponents. Speaking of good luck, Volcanic Salvo, even more. A sorcery for 10 red. It's going to cost excess to cast for the total power creatures you control. Again, you can fill your board incredibly quickly with goblins. I mean, would you just your commander in play, right? That's already 6 cost reduction for this. You easily can get 4 goblins into play, right? So you're going to be casting this for just 2 mana. It's going to deal 6 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures and or planeswalkers. So that's lovely. But again, hey, basically 12 hasty goblins for just 2 mana. And normally those goblins, again, would be just, 1/1s. They would just have one little power, but there are plenty of ways to pump them to make them incredibly deadly. How about Surge to Victory? Exile target instant source card from your graveyard. Creatures you control get +X/+0 until end of turn. Rex that card's mana value. Oh my goodness. Okay, so just think about, all right, again, you made this giant army, right? Volcanic Salvo, cool. I just paid 2 mana essentially to cast. I've got, 12 goblins, and I probably have even more in play, right, essentially. But yeah, then I cast a Surge to Victory. I'll exile that Volcanic Salvo. I'll give all my creatures +12/+0 until end of turn. That is an absurd amount of damage coming out of my little tiny, previously 1/1 goblins now have 13 power. On top of that, Surge to Victory says, whenever a creature you control deals combat to a player this turn, copy the exile card. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. If your goblin gets through, that's game. If your goblins get through, I mean, anyways, that's game anyways, because you're going to be dishing out a ton of damage. But hey, let's just have them get through and then, just cast Volcanic Salvos again and again and again and again and again and again. And then your commander is going to say, hey, the math is hard. Let's have a lot of Phyrexian Goblin tokens, though. But when it comes to pricier picks, again, cards that are outside of my budget restrictions, cards that are more than $1, and some of these a lot more than $1, Mercadia's Downfall is one of the first ones that actually came to my mind. A simple instant for just 2 and a red, so hey, instant speed, let's get 3 goblins, great. More importantly though, attacking creatures get +X/+0 until end of turn, where X the number of non-basic lands defending player controls. So hey, you're swinging at a player that's got a good amount of non-basics for just 3 mana. You can surprise, be like, those little goblins that you thought were coming through for just 1 damage? Well, you didn't block them. And now instant speed, all my goblins are going to get +5/+0. So you're gone. And speaking of being gone, you don't even have to attack to take your opponents out in some sort of scenarios. I mean, Impact Tremors. Hey, whenever a creature in his battlefield under control, Impact Tremors is going to deal 1 damage to each opponent. Have fun with that. And of course, in a bigger way, Perforos, God of the Forge, a more expensive way. Actually, though, Impact Tremors is like $4. Reprint it, Wizards, please. Perforos, much more expensive than that. Anyway, 6/5 Indestructible. Basically, hey, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Perforos is going to deal 2 damage each opponent. So now every single one of those goblins that you have come into play, dish out 2 damage to all of your opponents. That is basically, 6 damage per each goblin? So let's say that you cast, again, a Volcanic Salvo, right? The 12 mana spell. Let's say you cast that. In total, that's 12 times 6, essentially? I mean, basically, that's 24 damage to each opponent. Absurd. You can take your opponents out in absolutely no time. Or let's say that your opponent somehow survived combat, right? They survived you coming at them with all those goblins. Well, your goblins aren't done punishing them just yet, because Throne of the God Pharaoh is here. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses life equal to the number of tapped creatures you control. Yeah, there's going to be plenty of them, so have fun, opponents. The Immortal Sun, another great way to have fun. Hey, players can activate Planeswalker's loyalty abilities. That's fine with us, as long as they're not running Planeswalkers. At the beginning of your draw step, draw a card. Lovely. Spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Cost reduction is king for a deck like this, and this one applies to every single one of our cards. On top of that, creatures you control get +1/+1. It's like this card was made for this deck. I mean, we're making 6 goblins just with this, and every single one of our goblins are now going to be, 2 2s, which again is just doubling up our damage, making it even more ridiculous. Speaking of doubling damage, how about an Embercleave? This can get really spicy. It's an equipment with flash. It's going to cost 1 less to cast for each attacking creature you control. Basically every single time this is going to cost us just 2 mana to flash in and make, 6 goblins as well, which is lovely. On top of that, enters the battlefield attached to our creature you control. How about let's attach it to our commander? An equipped creature gets ++1 as double strike and trample. You remember our commander is also a 6/6 flyer with Ward 3 and pay 3 life and whatnot. Well, now it also gets ++1, so it's a 7/7 with trample and double strike. So it's going to be hitting for 14. So if our goblins don't take out our opponents, our double striking commander that can two-shot a player will. And finally, how about Aminatu's Augury in Mana Form Hellkite? 2 cards that can be incredible with a commander like this. The Augury says, exile the top 8 cards of your library and put a land card from among them on the battlefield. Until end of turn for each non-land card type, may cast a card of that type from among the exile cards without paying its mana cost. Basically, hey, I'm going to make 8 goblins, ramp, because that's just nice too, and then also probably cast a couple other things to also make me even more goblins. Yeah, this card can be a game changer. Speaking of which, yeah, I mean, even a creature can help out in this kind of a deck too, right? You don't want to probably put too many creatures in there, but Mana Form Hellkite might be one that you want to consider, because whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you're going to get an XX red dragon illusion creature stone with flying and haste, Rex the amount of mana spent to cast a spell, exile the token at the beginning of the next end step. Basically, again, a different way of going about the value of, those big spells that you're casting. Again, our commander is going to make us a bunch of tiny 1/1s that have haste. This one's going to make us a singular, evasive, hasty creature. So yeah, it might not stay around forever, but it can just be like a giant, essentially not lightning bolt, but it's a fireball. That's the word that I was looking for. Could be basically just a giant fireball on a unsuspecting player who just doesn't have any flyers to block. Oh no, so sad for you. Yeah, this can definitely be a one to consider. I mean, obviously, any of the other ones that, benefit you when you're casting massive non-creature spells like Shark Typhoon, which I already mentioned earlier. Yeah, there's plenty of great considerations for a gross commander like this. Overall, though, yeah, gross. This commander has a lot going for it. It does cost a good amount of mana. Again, 7 mana is a lot, but you were getting a lot for that 7 mana. Again, 6/6 flyer. Pretty big body right there. Ward 3, pay 3 life. A lot of a commitment for an opponent to try to take this out. And at certain points of the game, they're not even going to be able to do that because they're not going to be able to pay the amount of mana they actually need to. And they might be too low on life to really want to do that as well. So yeah, a good amount of protection on this, and one that can flood the board in absolutely no time with the right build. Again, cards like Volcanic Salvo can just give you a ton of value unexpectedly out of nowhere, and can pair really well with other things that can really take your opponents out in absolutely no time. So yeah, I think it's fair to say that this commander is quite gross and that many players out there might be excited about it. And again, if you are one of those players, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. And with that, today's episode is coming to an end. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on it in the comments below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.